Hi, this is Sarah Kozian, and this is my final portfolio for the practicum. Here's my table of contents. We're going to begin with Introduction to Personal Goals, walk through Philosophy of Education, Major Objectives, Activity Goals, my summary reflection, bibliography, and lastly, my summary signature from my principal. Starting Introduction to Personal Goals. This is my 10th year in education. I started in special education, inclusion, and science. I worked in elementary and high school, and now I am a full high school science teacher. I have taught earth science, life science, chemistry, physics. I love them all. I've been married to my husband Dennis for 2 years, and we have a son, Dennis, who is 18 months old. I currently live in West Michigan. I live and teach in a town called Portage, and right now I am teaching high school science, the inclusion courses. My hope is to gain a position as a high school administrator at some point in time in my district. I'm interested in the secondary level students, or gain some type of an administrative position at our district level office. Philosophy of education. I think that administrators need to work openly and fairly with stakeholders. They need to provide an example for staff and manage resources appropriately and effectively. Major objective that I'm focusing on here is our response to intervention, addressing the needs of all students in one classroom, looking at remediation for students, in addition to differentiation, helping students who are excelling in a course as well as dealing with behavior. This picture shows our documentation of our response to intervention, just to show you what I might be focusing on throughout the practicum. These are the things we offer all students. This is level 2, if you hear me talk about level 2. I mean, this is level 1. I'm sorry, these are the classroom interventions offered to all. This is level 2, and then level 3 would be special education and specified interventions. Now, through my activities, first activity was creating parent evaluations for students, teachers, and parents in our honors and IB courses. Here's documentation of that. It was an application process for students to be enrolled in our IB and honors courses. Activity 2, analyzing standardized test scores for patterns in student need in science. We analyzed elementary scores and then compared them to middle and high school scores. Here's documentation. This is the high school scores that we looked at, and then we got to compare the exact same information, or it was set up in the same way, to the science skills we were seeing at the elementary. Activity 3, using Google Forms to analyze student work. Using a Google form to take in student work and analyze it and put the material together and present that back to students in a quick way. Activity 4, creating a mission statement, vision, survey of staff, attitudes about those, data analysis, and then creating the final mission statement. And this is our final mission statement we created. Activity 5, curriculum review. Participated with parents and other stakeholders in reviewing our science curriculum. This is the sequence of courses that we came up with. Creating a flipped classroom. This year I created a flipped classroom where teaching is done through video notes at home and homework and practice is done in the classroom. It's an ongoing process. This is documentation of a way that a student would complete a lab in the flipped classroom and showing the lab results. Students would do the analysis at home. Presenting at the Michigan Science Teacher Conference. This is a title of the presentation that we did. Did a presentation about formative assessments to teachers here in Michigan. Activity 8, I presented at the National Science Teacher Convention. This presentation was a little different, a different type of formative assessment focused more on middle school and lower level high school students. Activity 9, participating in a professional learning community with the rest of my science department. I participate in that once a month. This is a picture of my professional learning community. It's an article they did in our school newspaper. It says, a look at how the science department is stronger than covalent bonds. We have a very strong PLC. We work very, very well together. Activity 10, working with a DLR or assist room. This is what we call level 2 in our intervention. These are students who do not have special education or 504 services, but students who are struggling in school. And it's called direct learning room. Students go there for their homeroom. I work on a weekly, sometimes daily basis with the teachers in there to help students to keep up on their materials. And it's a documentation of that again. Level 2, here's where I'm working with those teachers at that level. Activity 11, served as advisor for the freshman class, helped to organize homecoming activities, take money for t-shirts, recruit students, teach them correct behavior at homecoming activities. Activity 12, utilizing a website to get information to students via text message, just attempting a different way to get information to my students. It's a way for me to confidentially get information to my students and also their parents if they want it. And also for the students don't see the other people who are enrolled in the website, and they can't reply, or there's no texting back and forth. I can send students a link if they need homework. I can send students a quick reminder, and parents can participate as well. It's something I just set up this year. Here is information from my website about how they can sign up for that. Activity 13, district-wide survey about the science curriculum. This was a survey that we developed that went out to not just employees, but also parents and students to get their ideas about the science curriculum before we made all of our curriculum changes. Google form for student and parent information. This was a form that I created to help document if contact information or any information for students or parents had changed. We very often have students who will move within the district, and using the Google form was a much more beneficial way for me to share that with not only other teachers, but administrators and counselors as well. And this is a picture of that Google form. This is just one portion of it. Providing materials for hospital and homebound services. At my school, you are required as a general education teacher to provide education to students who are homebound, which would mean that they are medically unable to come to school. So we need to find a way to provide the education to them. It doesn't mean that I go home and teach them, but I do need to provide the material so someone can. So I worked with our counseling department to provide a curriculum for 4 students that would help them to meet their needs outside school. Activity 16, working with a behavioral specialist to create and implement behavior plans. I had some very complicated behavior plans this year especially, and I got to work with a behavior specialist before school began to make sure that I was updated on the plans. I have many students who have paraprofessionals who are with them all day, and we needed to make sure we were all on the same page. I've also helped to implement them and then revise them throughout the year. Activity 17, district team review of current IB offerings. We sat down as a district, not only including teachers, but also some parents, to look at what are our current IB offerings and what else would they like for us to offer. 18, teacher interest survey and satisfaction on new IB course offerings. Before, we would bring the idea of a new course to all students, seeing what teacher thoughts are about it at both high schools. We have 2 high schools, and looking into whether or not that would be something that would interest teachers at both high schools before we begin to offer the course. Activity 19, lab safety instruction and contracts. We've developed a district-wide lab safety contract that all students have to sign before they're allowed to partake in lab in 9th, 10th, and 11th grade. We've also integrated a lot of use of pictograms so that our lab safety instruction is consistent across the district. You can see 2 examples here. This is the lab safety contract that we've developed and used, and these are some of the pictograms that we've started using district-wide. District-wide survey on earth science satisfaction. After we had completed the other surveys that you heard about earlier in my activities, we found that many teachers and students were concerned with our earth science offering. It's an extra course that we require at the junior level that many districts around us do not. So we put out a survey to parents, teachers, students, any other stakeholders to see what their thoughts were on the course. We took 2 hours designing it, then once the data came back, 2 hours analyzing it. Activity 21, I worked with a student teacher who her focus was in elementary special education. I worked with her during 1/4 of her student teaching to help her implement elementary level reading interventions in the high school classroom. We got a chance to use those elementary level reading interventions with higher level text to see how they would work. Also, we had the opportunity to have our students at the high school level develop a lesson that could be utilized with elementary students, teaching them science. Organizing elementary and middle school students visiting the high school marching band. Activity 22, taking elementary and middle school students to a high school football game and allowing them to march and work with our high school marching bands. Activity 23, worked with elementary level students, helping to fit them properly for middle school band instruments. more in organizing and paperwork, as I am not musically inclined, but helping to organize that and being present for that process. Organizing and teaching a forensic science summer camp. We called it CSI summer camp. We had students who were going into 5th and 6th grade, so we had 4th and 5th graders in the morning, and then we had middle schoolers in the afternoon. You can see this is one of my coworkers teaching students blood spatter. This shows some of the concepts we covered. And this is one of my footprints. I actually got to be one of the suspects. The students had to see if my footprint matched the crime scene. 25, trained in a peer mentoring program. We are hopefully starting a new program in my school called Link Crew to provide 9th grade students with peer mentoring. Summary reflection. As I went into this, I really thought that all of my time would be focused on meetings and less in the classroom, but that was definitely not true. My administration is focused on what's happening in the classroom. I expected many more negative interactions to happen with parents, but I did not see that. And I also thought that it would be very difficult to choose the activities. I thought this was a great example of Standard 1 because it shows collaboration and working between stakeholders. Explanation stage. There was not as much negative parent interaction from my part of the practicum. I know that I didn't get a chance to really see those. I can't really be a part of all of those meetings, but just in talking with my administrator throughout it, I didn't see as much as I thought I would. There was much more delegation than I had imagined. There is so much work deciding what you are capable of doing and what you can give to other people. And third, I really got to understand that no matter how much I think we never have enough resources. So that really made me think of Standard 3, managing and utilizing resources correctly. Conjecture stage. As we're looking at RTI and helping to meet the needs of all of our students, are all stakeholders on board, including parents and all teachers? And are we focusing on the right needs of those students? Is it academic needs or is it social emotional needs that they have? That made me think Standard 4, properly analyzing data. Analysis stage. When I'm looking at my material and where am I going to go next, we are constantly at my school focusing on our lowest 30% of achieving students. Those are the students that we're servicing in our RTI. And they are scoring remarkably lower than our highest 30%. We're actually what we call a focus school this year because our school is focusing on that. Now, our students are seeing more passing scores. And our remedial courses, more students are passing and their reading levels are rising, but our ACT scores are not. And that ACT score is what we're measured on. So we're looking at what are some other needs that bottom 30% might have. We're trying to meet their academic needs now, but do we need to look back more at middle school, elementary school level? Do we need to look more at what's going on at home? Do we need to look more at interpersonal skills? Will this peer intervention program help them? And that made me think of Standard 2. Creating a coherent curriculum. And lastly, synthesis stage. I think we need to continue to address the pyramid of intervention. We need to look at other factors that are affecting our lowest kids, and we need to keep our administration consistent. Our administrators are incredibly influential in this process, and their example is very helpful. So I think if we can keep our administrators on board, and they're wonderful administrators. I would understand if they went somewhere else, but we really need to keep them here if we can help. That made me think of Standard 5 and 6. Standard 5, modeling behavior that's relevant for all stakeholders. And Standard 6, advocating for children and families, looking at maybe not as many academic factors for those students. Do we need to do something else? This is my bibliography. And here's my summative evaluation form signed by Mike Huber, who is the administrator in charge of me. And that is the end of my presentation.